Yo, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Jay Hod, and welcome back to the channel, y'all. And we are gonna be talking about it today, State of Decay 3. All right, so recently, Brian Menard has blessed us again with another gem, y'all. Shout out to Brian. Again, go check out his channel. Awesome content. He dropped a little bit more State of Decay 3 gameplay. This time he was focusing mostly on the base management. So it was about an hour and 41-minute video. Today, I'm going to kind of give you my take and my reaction to everything he dropped. I'm really only going to focus on a lot of the base management things, maybe a couple miscellaneous items here and there. And the rest of the video was a lot of new gameplay we saw. I'm not really going to focus on that too much. Today, I just want to talk about the base management. Now, before we get into the video, I'm going to say it. It's an alpha build, y'all. All right? It's an alpha build. All right? So some of the mechanics, some of the things with the base are not finished. They're not fully fleshed out. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. All right? So let's not waste any more time. Let's get ready to jump right in this video. All right. So this first shot we have here is the community menu. We have Brian's main character in the middle, Chris Donaldson. We got some of the other community members off to the left of the rooftops. I don't know if that's the name of the settlement or their name. We have the icons at the top, map, community, book, you know, looks like a closet with a shirt there. And then off to the right, we got some of the survivors' traits and specialties. So right off the back, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I like this look. Might not be the final UI, but I like it. So we're going to take a look. All right, so under her name, let's skip that. Let's look at one of her traits, sharpshooting. So that's a field skill. It says there she's level 1, 100% damage to head. So that's what we were talking about in the last video, where some zombies are a little tougher to kill with lower calibers and some of the higher calibers, from what I'm understanding. And with sharpshooter, it makes your bullets more proficient, I guess you could say. You might get that one-shot headshot with sharpshooter, and as you upgrade it more and more, of course, it's going to get stronger and stronger. To the right of that is another skill. I think that's some sort of medical skill. If we zoom in here, we can see she's a hospital administrator, lived on bugs, bruises easily, no status effects, food scarcity, morale, beds, and bed scarcity there. All right, so we got a quick look at that. Let's move on to the next shot. All right, in this next shot, the one thing I want to focus on is negative traits. All right, so from what I'm understanding, in State of Decay 3, negative traits can be overcome. All right, so as you can see highlighted here, bruises easily. All right, so she has a negative trait here, minus 33 injury recovery rate. All right, but if you look below that, look at the little bar there that says injuries recovered from. When I said you can overcome from negative traits, this is what I'm talking about. Brian told us, and he showed us here, that injuries, this bar down here, if you recover from 25 injuries or more, you will get over that negative trait. Okay, so that's different than State of Decay 2, where you had a negative trait, and usually, you know, that would be something, you know, that would negatively affect your community. So you kind of have to offset that with a little bit of a morale boost. So I like that. That's definitely different, and we're getting a little glimpse of how intricate the survivor systems are in State of Decay 3. All right, the next thing I want to take a look at here is if you scroll down to settlement effects, food scarcity. All right, in State of Decay 3, if you are low on food, that's going to affect, I'm guessing, each survivor's health. So as you can see here, Chris, is it Chris? Yes, Chris. Chris is suffering from a minus 40 max health. So because there's less food in the community, it is affecting her health. Now that's different, obviously, from State of Decay 2, where usually if you had low food, it didn't really affect each survivor individually like that. It might affect morale, you know, they might fight, they might, you know, waste items or things of that nature. Or, I mean, if it was really low, it might start affecting everybody. But in this one here, we see that food scarcity is going to negatively impact your health for your survivors in your community. All right, next, take a look at the screen here. All right, so this is like a side screen from the screen we saw before. where you saw that Chris had a sharpshooter skill, and to the right she has some sort of medical skill here. I'm not sure what it is. Brian explains it in his video. But up to the right of the expertise skill, you have like a little shield, and it has a 1. And also on the previous screen, we saw that over the sharpshooter and the medical skill, there was a badge, a 1 over it. That 1 is going to be, I guess, a point system, for lack of a better term, so that you can upgrade your survivor skills. So in State of Decay 2, you know, you kind of had like a 7-star system, and you kind of went through it, and then you got to a specialty after you got through 7 stars of, you know, that particular skill or special skill. In State of Decay 3, you still kind of have that system in effect, but it's different because you can kind of like make a build. And all my gamers know what I mean when I say make a build. All right, so you see a sharpshooter here, you got that 1, you know, point or whatever you want to call it. You can either, you know, continue to upgrade your sharpshooter, or you can go over here to your expertise. You can kind of upgrade that, or you can kind of go right to that middle spot there where it says field skills, and you can add a whole new field skill to kind of start working on. So you can kind of mix and match. You can have a sharpshooter, you can have like craftsman. I think there's another skill that Brian talks about in his video you can add there, and you can add up to 3. So, or you can just go and, you know, upgrade the medical one, you know, for this particular survivor. So that's what's going to be new in terms of upgrading and mix and matching skills in State of Decay 3. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about here, we have another survivor from the community, Wesley Porter, with the nice little leather jacket on. All right, so he carries a big stick, as we can see here. That's one of his traits. Now, because he carries a big stick, he gets, if we look here, zoom in, he gets bonus XP for carrying or for killing with heavy weapons, right? So that means he can kind of level up faster if you have a heavy weapon and you're using that heavy weapon to kill zombies. So that's something you're going to run into with survivors. Certain little traits and little things that they can do can help them level up a lot faster. So if you have a heavy weapon, you can equip them with it, you know, as soon as possible, start, you know, wrecking some zombies and get your XP levels up quicker than you usually would if you were using any other type of melee weapon or gun. Oh yeah, and before I forget, going back to how the low food affects the health, also what I want to talk about is, you know, low beds. So if you don't have enough beds, that's going to affect your survivor's stamina. So just like it affects the food, if you don't have enough beds, it's going to be a hit on their stamina for your survivors. And just to add this tidbit up in here, on higher difficulties, obviously it's going to be worse. All right, so keep that in mind. You know what I'm saying? All you nightmare gangsters and lethal warriors, just keep that in mind. You know, low food, not enough beds, and some of the other resources are going to, you know, the effects are going to be worse or doubled. I'm just going to say that, but it's definitely going to be worse. All right, so this next shot we're going to take a look at here is just him running through the base. I just want to get you guys a good look at what it looks like right now. And, you know, obviously it's not a finished product. A lot of the icons are really small here. As you can see, he's pointing them out. You know, it's got a garden, you know, it's clearable debris, facilities. I'm pretty sure that's going to get fleshed out, you know, as we go through the alphas here. But not bad, you know, not bad. He has a rain collector here. Oh, and I want to point out the map at the top of the screen here. We have the map in the top right hand corner. We didn't have the map on in his previous gameplay, but you get a good idea of what it looks like. I'm pretty sure you can move it. I'm probably going to move it down to that lower left hand side. It's kind of like where I like my map at. But he's over here at the rain collector, and you know what, let's jump right in. Let me tell you guys about this. All right, so here we have the screen for the facility here, the rain collector. And facilities in State of Decay 3, from what I'm understanding from Brian, are going to be relatively different than State of Decay 2. All right, so let me just tell you, you know, why we're saying that, or why he's saying that. In State of Decay 2, you would build a facility and it just functions. You know, it does its own thing. You spend the manpower, you spend the materials, build a facility, boom, you got it. All right, State of Decay 3 is going to be different. All right, so State of Decay 3, you're going to be able to build a facility, but then you also have to make sure it's active. Okay, so you have to make sure that it's producing. All right, you can make sure it can be turned off, it can be turned on. But not only that, you're gonna have to have a supervisor man that facility for it to function, right? So when you create, we'll take a look at this screenshot here. When you create let's just say, for lack of a better example, the rain collector here, you have to figure out which survivor is going to man this particular facility. Excuse me, I just bit my mouth. Yeah. Oh my God. All right, let's focus, Jay. Let's focus. All right, so you're gonna have to have somebody man this facility. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about connected to that, we're going to switch over to a little bit of this screenshot where, he has to clear debris here. So let's just, take an example here. So here, you're going to get materials, you're going to get, I guess parts, the wrench there. But for you to even let's just say, break down debris in the base, you're going to have a cost here. So not only are you going to have a labor cost, but the labor cost is going to be in water, because your survivor has to do the work to, clear this. They're going to be sweating. It's going to be hot. They're going to need water. You're going to have a water cost for your facilities. And even with that rain collector, while that survivor is manning that facility, he's going to need some water. He or she is going to need some water. So it's going to be a cost to assign a survivor to this particular facility to make it work, to make it function. And while they're working hard, you got to provide water. So that is definitely different in State of Decay 3. That is taking base management up a whole notch, not just a little notch, a whole notch. All right, again, we have another example here. All right, so we have a screenshot of Brian here attempting to build a garden. As you can see here, you have a daily demand of -3 water to run the facility. Okay, and again, that's for your survivor. Your production is +5 food. Outdoor slot takes 5 minutes. Again, you can see here, there's 6. The requirements to build is 6 water and obviously 108 influence. But you got to remember, when you assign that member there, they're working hard. It's going to cost you water to maintain this facility. We didn't get anything like that in State of Decay 2. So base building in State of Decay 3 is way more intricate. All right, next, let's take a look at this screenshot here. All right, look at this wall here, y'all. Look at this wall to the left. What does it look like? Look like a Daybreak wall, right? All right, so Brian told us that these walls at your base, and I don't think the whole base is made of these walls. I think there's certain sections that are. They have to be repaired, and they can be damaged by zombies and freaks. So what I'm assuming here is that if you get a siege, you get a horde coming in of zombies, and they come right up to this wall here, they're going to be banging on the wall, trying to get in, doing damage to the wall, and eventually the wall's going to give way, and they're going to overtake your base. So that's a little bit of a, I don't want to say Easter egg, but that's kind of cool that they added that aspect into the base from Daybreak, those walls. That's interesting. Obviously, I don't think the whole base is made out of those walls, but I think it's a cool touch nonetheless, that they've added into the base aspect in State of Decay 3. All right, the next thing I want to talk about here is if we take a look at the top of this screenshot, we have the UI here with the resources, the resource count at our base. So you see how, let's take a look around. I guess this is chemicals. I don't know. It looks like a beaker or something to that effect. And you see how there's like a circle around it. So from what I'm understanding, and Brian said this in his video, when that circle kind of connects and fills out, that particular facility that's crafting, let's just say whatever that is, that chemical is going to stop production. So it's not going to continue to produce if the storage on that particular item is full. It's going to stop until obviously, that circle recedes and it needs to start up again. That's how I understood it, the way he explained it in the video. I think that's cool. I like that. That makes sense. You don't get, people, or you don't get resources wasted because you have too many of it, which I kind of disliked in State of Decay 2, that, when you went over your resources, you kind of lost them, in a way, at least in this one. And like I said, it's superior base management in this game. We can see it. It makes sense. Obviously, when you're high on something, you're going to stop producing it, especially at the particular facility that is, doing it. All right, the next thing I want to talk about here is facility upgrades. So we're going to take a look at the rain collector first. So as you can see here, you have a facility upgrades. It is organized in a tree type of vibe here, a tree, not a physical tree, but like a tree. All right, so you have collection on one side, you have maintenance, and you have purification. So you can upgrade that facility in any way you want to do it. You can go to, collection route, you can do the maintenance route, you could do the purification. You're going to have to add, for you to upgrade it, let's just say for the collection side here, requirements is materials, and you need 2 plastics. So that's just one aspect of upgrading a facility in State of Decay 3. Let's take a look at the pharmacy here. I'll put that up on the screen. It should already be there, possibly. Now you can see how more intricate, building a pharmacy and then upgrading that pharmacy is. Here you have the first aid side, antiseptic, immunization, side effects, and pain management. All right. Brian goes deeper into this, so check out his video for a deeper dive into that. But I just want to give you guys an idea of what it looks like to upgrade your facility in State of Decay 3. Now, let's go back over to the rain collector, take a look at that. Now, at the bottom again, I said 9 materials and 2 plastics. Now, in State of Decay 3, first, let me say this. State of Decay 2, when you would break down an item, no matter what it was, 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10, you would get parts. In State of Decay 3, when you break down an item, you're going to get different types of materials. So, for example, let's just say you break down this hammer here. You're going to get, don't quote me on this, you can get some parts for the metal part of the hammer, but for the handle, you're going to get plastic. If you break down a first aid kit, you're going to get a bandage, and you're probably going to get plastic. Depending on what you break down, you're going to get different type of resources that you can use to upgrade different facilities and other items, possibly weapons, at your base. So I like that a lot. It adds a level of realism to the game. And oh yeah, another thing I want to talk about in terms of facility upgrades, it's not a big deal, but I do want to put this out there because it is a really cool touch, is when you upgrade these facilities, it's going to show. You're going to be able to see it. If you upgrade the rain collector and you add maybe more plastic to it for more collection, you're going to see that part of the rain collector change, get bigger, and look different. So I like it. It's a small thing, but it is a nice touch to the base management. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about here is the harvest sites. So on the map, you're going to see little icons. You might see like a little drop of water. You might see like a little slice of pizza. Obviously, we know the pizza means food. There are preset places on the maps that are going to be harvest sites. So what are harvest sites, and do we still have outposts? Yes, we still do have outposts in State of Decay 3, but they operate a little differently than State of Decay 2. So they do pretty much everything that they did in State of Decay 2, minus one thing. They do not provide you with any resources, all right? So what harvest sites are, they are facilities away from home, all right? So it's somewhat like an outpost, but like a place where you can equip and gain something from it, whether it's water, materials, or a food, food production or something to that effect. So that's what a harvest site is. I like that. That's really awesome. If you're kind of like, you have a garden and you don't have any more space at your base, but you need another place for you need another facility, not just like a basic food production, but an actual facility. Boom, you can claim a harvest site, and each base is going to have a different amount of slots for those harvest sites. Let's take a look at this screenshot here. Brian has a base that he can only have 3 harvest sites with the current base that he's at. He's going to get water from this particular harvest site, he has to have the right amount of electricity, which he has, the influence, which he has. And the other thing with harvest sites, they are going to have to be staffed by one of your community members. So you're going to have to assign somebody in order for it to produce. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about here is buffs. Okay, now buffs are kind of like what we had in State of Decay 2, and we had snacks and we had the stems and we had the energy drinks and things of that nature. Now we have buffs. So buffs last longer and have a better impact than those did. All right, so you can eat a meal, as you can see here what Brian's doing. You can you can drink a water, and that's going to give you stamina busts buffs for a longer period than 20 seconds or something to that effect. Now, stamina, the energy drinks and the stems and the snacks, I think are still in the game from what I'm understanding from Brian, but they have a different role and a different effect than buffs. So I like the buffs. It kind of reminds me, I don't know why, the motion when you see the character eating of like DayZ. I get those vibes when I see that. I like it. I like that a lot. I felt like the stamina and stem didn't last that long in State of Decay 2. I like that you can take this. He doesn't say how long it lasts, but the way he implies that it lasts really long. And I like that. I really like that. All right, so the next thing we're going to jump into is crafting. So we're going to take a look here. We got our selected facility map up. You got your ammo press, pharmacy, workbench. We got all that there. But then you see underneath that you have some locked facilities. All right, so there is something new in State of Decay 3. All right, and if you want to, let's say you want to unlock the kitchen or something to that effect, you're going to scroll over to your menu screen and you're going to look for something called the drafting table. All right, I'll put an image of that up here, the drafting table. This kind of reminds me of Minecraft a little bit. I'm not saying it's a direct correlation, but it just made me think of that when when Brian talked about the drafting table. So once you click on the drafting table, you're going to see the menu here. You're going to have an option to choose between basic mechanics, basic chemistry, basic biology. Let's say you click on basic biology. Then you can see here what basic biology unlocks. You have your kitchen there as well as other facilities. Now, to acquire this, you're going to have notebooks and floppy disks. And I think there's some other objects that are kind of specific to this particular facility, the drafting table here. So just take note of that down at the bottom of the screen. It takes notebooks and other things for you to be able to learn the skill that will enable you to be able to get that particular facility. You'll go back to your facility menu. It'll be unlocked. You provide the necessary resources, and boom, you got the kitchen facility. So I just want to say, base management, crafting in this game is on a whole nother level. It's a lot deeper than State of Decay 2, and I'm here for it. All right, so some miscellaneous things that I picked up in the video as well. Brian showed us that if you have your vehicle near the base, it doesn't have to be in a parking spot or slot. But if you have your vehicle near the base, and I'll show a little clip here, you can deposit items directly from your trunk to your base. It does not have to be in a slot in State of Decay 3. Okay, this next one here, again, I'm going to show you guys a video, is the jump kick melee skill. All right, so you have to have a particular skill to do this jump kick. All right, but if you can see it here in the video, it looks really, really cool. I know in the last video I said I'm going to be using the slide under and finish the zombie, but in this, now that I see this, I think this might be my #1 finisher when I get to play State of Decay 3. I love State of Decay 3. I love the jump kick. It's just awesome. When I saw him do it, I was like, bro, I'm here for it. I want that. I want that. All right, next I want to talk about vehicles having problems driving over big hordes of zombies. So in State of Decay 2, you know, when you kind of went through a horde of zombies, the only way it affected your vehicle is the cosmetic damage. You know, that's kind of to the extent that State of Decay 2 was with the vehicle damage in terms of going over hordes or large quantities of zombies. Well, in State of Decay 3, it's going to be hard for these vehicles to plow through large amounts of zombies. You're not just going to go through it like, you know, like a warm knife through butter. You know what I'm saying? When you go through these zombies, it's going to slow you down. and you're going to have some vehicle issues when you're going through large hordes of zombies. So just keep that in mind. In State of Decay 3, you ain't going to be able to just plow down those hordes like we used to in State of Decay 2. Okay, and the next thing I want to cover is the locked boxes or containers in State of Decay 3. Now, in State of Decay 2, when you search something, you had that long search mechanism in the middle of the screen when you were searching boxes. And when you sped through it, you would let off like a loud crash and a bunch of zombies would come in. Well, that's not really in State of Decay 3 as much anymore. It's a little different from what I'm seeing. There's going to be boxes that are locked and containers that are secured or near vehicles that have alarms. And it's going to be a big risk to try to open them because it's going to make a loud noise. And that's when all the zombies are going to come in. Now, it might be worth the risk because in those containers usually is going to be really good loot. So sometimes it might be worth the risk if you're prepared to deal with the consequences to unlock or to search those boxes. Okay, and the next thing I wanted to cover was enclaves. So enclaves in the game are different. State of Decay 2, they would be in a random garage. There's just 3 of them, and they really didn't have much going on. They would just be in a space. Maybe they have a little trash can that's on fire or whatever, something to that effect. But in State of Decay 3, they're going to be a lot better than that. They're going to have their own settlements, their own bases, their own goals, you know, their own facilities. I mean, they're going to be like a functioning community out there. So what makes them different is, and cool, I think, is when you actually recruit them as, you know, in State of Decay 2, when you recruit them, it disbanded the whole enclave and you took whatever survivor or all the survivors in. In State of Decay 3, when you bring in a survivor or you accept an enclave, it's like you're accepting on another settlement. So now they kind of be part of you. They're kind of part of you, but now their settlement becomes like your second settlement or like your substation, for lack of a better term. So it's not like you're going to get rid of them when you recruit them. They now, everything they have, everything that's set up at their base becomes yours. Okay, so let's wrap this video up. Let's wrap it up, y'all. I'm going to keep it real with you. Everything we've heard about base management so far, the crafting, resources, harvest sites, outposts, everything I've heard, I like. I like it. It's definitely a major go. I'm excited about it. So overall, I like it. Now, I get accused of not having, you know, too many negatives in my video or being a fanboy, but if I had to say any negatives about what I'm seeing, let's just start with the base. I would say the only negative I have is I wish you can kind of make anything a base. I wish it was a little bit more creative, meaning not having set bases. All right, I'm going to be beating a dead horse with that. I really don't particularly care for the set bases. Now, with that being said, with everything that they're doing with the bases, I think it kind of makes up for it a little bit because it's a little bit more extensive. It's not as just archaic as State of Decay 2. State of Decay 3 is really, the crafting and the base management is really in depth. So that kind of swayed me back toward the positive side, but I'm still a little disappointed that we don't get to kind of create our own base anywhere in the game. The next thing I do want to talk about, and listen, it's an alpha, so I'm not really holding it at high regard, but the zombie spawn. During some of the gameplay, I just kind of feel like zombies come out of nowhere at times. I'm not a huge fan of that. I understand zombies have to spawn in to make the game function, but I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of it. But again, it's alpha. We don't have the finished product. We don't know how the zombie spawn is going to happen. But it's just something that stuck out to me and is in the back of my head. So those are my two negatives. But we're going to wrap it up. Overall, I do like what we're seeing in terms of base management. I'm really excited what they are bringing to the table for State of Decay 3. All right? So it's a major go. Thumbs up. I love it. And with that, we're going to end the video here today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Peace out. Ooh, ooh.